Hello, lovely friend. I am Dr. Mary Barson.
And I'm Dr. Lucy Burns.
We are doctors
and weight management and metabolic health experts.
and this is the Real Health and Weight Loss Podcast.
Good morning, my gorgeous friend. How are you this morning? It's a beautiful Tuesday in Melbourne, so hot. And I am joined by this gorgeous woman, and no, it's not Dr. Mary, it's a special guest. I have with me Jackie Curry. Now, Jackie is a phenomenal woman. She's an incredible businesswoman that I actually met at a conference where I was doing a segment on, looking after yourself, looking after your health in New Zealand. And we connected, and she's got a great wonderful story. She's a Samoan woman living in New Zealand, working with business in Dubai, all over the world, phenomenally successful, but needed a little bit of help with her health. So I am pleased to share her story with you today because I think you'll find it inspiring. Jackie, welcome to the podcast.
Good morning, Talofa lava, Dr. Lucy. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, good morning. Do you know what I love about you, Jackie, is that you always kind of acknowledge your heritage. You've always got, so for those of you who aren't watching the video, Jackie always wears a flower in her hair. Every time I've seen her, middle of the night, morning, anytime, she's got this beautiful island flower in her hair. She always uses her native language for greetings. And I just think, reminding yourself of your own culture and roots is so important and valuable.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Lucy, for acknowledging that. And yes, I like to think of myself as a modern day Moana navigating the seas of business.
I love that, a modern day Moana. In fact, there's a Moana second, part 2 is coming out this weekend. So very timely. Gorgeous one. Tell us a little bit about yourself. So, it's fascinating, Samoa, New Zealand, world. Tell me about that.
Awesome. Thanks, Dr. Lucy. So yes, as mentioned, my name is Jackie Curry. I also hold a title from a sanga from my grandmother's village, Fasito'otai. So just to acknowledge my country of Samoa, my family. And so very proud to be from Samoa, grew up in Samoa in a business family and very much have been involved in business my whole life. And yes, lived in New Zealand, raised my children there. They've now moved on. I'm sure, Dr. Lucy, have a lot of women in my shoes, like empty nesters, trying to figure out life without, children at home. And oh my gosh, all of a sudden, I call it I'm living my 20s and my 40s. I put a positive spin on it because it's oh my gosh, I've been raising children since I was 22 years old. So I'm kind of moving into that stage of life. I'm a business coach or strategist, consultant. I run business programs. I've been helping Pacific people in New Zealand in particular and in the Pacific region to how to run their businesses and just helping them growing their businesses, starting businesses. And yes, so with meeting yourself at the Female Fusion conference in New Zealand, Dr. Lucy, I was blown away, to be honest, by your presentation. So I'm excited to talk about that experience today and that journey that I've been on the last few weeks with being on your program and just, finally finding the answers to my questions with, all the changes that we go through as women at this golden age, as you call it, of our lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I guess for you lovelies at home, the talk that I did was really, talking to people about the fact that most of us work hard, really hard all our lives, planning for the glory years, as I love to call them, the, retirement where you get to reap the rewards of your hard work. Except that we're finding in this day and age, many people get to that point and then they get sick. They're unwell, they've got chronic disease. Instead of spending their money gallivanting around the country, they're spending it on pills and potions and walking frames and operations and doctor's appointments and physio reviews and OT assessments and all of these things that really we can avoid if we just take a few simple steps. So I'd love to know, Jack, what resonated with you in that talk then?
Yes, there was two parts. One was the woodshed example. I can't forget about the woodshed, the locked woodshed. That was a kind of defining moment when you explained, with everything going on with your hormones and your body like holding on to that, storage of that fat like nothing. And it just kind of hit me because of, through my life, I've always kind of been up and down with my weight and my health, focused on my health and then, falling off the bandwagon. But I've always been able to get back on it in my 20s and 30s. I was really good at the good old challenges, dropping weight through just going to the gym and controlling my eating. And then boom, next minute.
Yes, we call that dieting.
Yes.
We call that dieting. The whole, I'll do it, I'll be good for a bit.
Yes.
And then not so good.
Yeah. So I was on and off that bandwagon. And then all of a sudden I turned 39 and I was, I was in quite a, exercising, eating well and all that. And then all of a sudden I just started to unexplainably put on weight. And I always remember it was like 89, 90, and then it just kept going up. All of a sudden, for the first time in my life, including when I carried my children, I hit 100 kgs. And I'm like saying that out loud. I've never said that publicly. And it was just like, oh my gosh. And I just felt like it was a spiral that was happening. I had no idea why I was feeling so bad, tried all sorts of crash diets and pills and everything because I didn't understand what was going on. And there wasn't a lot of information out there. Like I've always been someone, if you show me how to do it, I can do it, in terms of, weight loss and my health, general health as well. And so, so I spent pretty much from 39 to 44. I'm now 44 years old. I've just been like researching and trying to find an answer and a way to get on top of my health and control my weight gain. And, it was just such a huge change in my body type as well. Like everything, clothes just didn't fit anymore. And I just felt like almost like I'd lost something because it was like only a year before when I looked at photos and I could like wear this dress. And, and I've always been someone that I love fashion. I love dressing up. Yeah. So it really affected me that period of time. So when you came up with the woodshed example, I felt like jumping up for joy. Like, oh my gosh, Dr. Lucy's finally given me the answer to this question or this information I've been searching for on why my body has just been retaining this weight. And I just want to say as well that, in the last 18 months, I've been very active at the gym and I've done 3 challenges at my gym. And literally like by the end of an 8-week challenge, maybe I lost 1 kg and put so much work in and haven't dropped the weight. Maybe my body changed a little bit, but that scale, just didn't want to move. So the woodshed, that was really like a light bulb moment for me.
Yeah. And I think the thing that people don't appreciate in general, and this can be often gym trainers in particular, is insulin resistance. And that's the woodshed analogy explains insulin resistance. So again, for those of you who are thinking, what is she talking about with the woodshed? The woodshed is this concept that when you're fasting or when your blood insulin levels are high, your fat stores are locked away like they're in a woodshed with a big fat padlock on them, or 10 big fat padlocks, depending on how insulin resistant you are. And the thing is that level of insulin resistance varies between people. So you can have 2 women eating exactly the same food, doing exactly the same training, and one will lose weight easily and one won't. And the one that doesn't, it's all about the insulin. So the thing that is very tricky is that we know Pacific Island people are much more prone to insulin resistance, as are New Zealand Maori people, Australian Indigenous people, Torres Strait Islander people, and it's really the root cause of the chronic disease that is really inflicting these people and giving them not just, a little bit of extra, roll around your middle, but severe illnesses, that are really robbing their lives.
Absolutely. Dr. Lucy, that's what really hit me the most as well was it wasn't just about weight loss. You talked about how by not doing something about it and the insulin resistance, first of all, and understanding, I was like, oh my gosh, that's what's going on with my body. And then when you went on to talk about the chronic disease it leads to, I was sitting there thinking about my older like aunties and, family members, Pacific Island women I knew that, worked so hard their whole lives and are getting chronic disease like in their 60s, and then their blood sugar levels, like you said, are going up. And it's just, I feel like there's not a lot of understanding about what's happening with women in my community. And also with the insulin resistance, I actually went to ask the doctor if I could take that test and discovered that they don't cover it unless you are predisposed to diabetes or you're high risk of diabetes. So my doctor actually told me, oh, you have to go and request and pay for that test if you want it. And here I am sitting here thinking 5 years of going to my GP and getting tests to find out what's going on with me. And now through learning about insulin resistance, now I know why we're not getting tested because it's, like I said, like that's what my doctor told me. So I did go and inquire with the lab about it. And anyway, I left New Zealand because as you know, I'm here in Dubai doing business at the moment. So as soon as I get back, I'm going to take that test. The only thing is I've already started on your program. I would have loved to have known where I was at in the beginning. But these are the things for any of our Pacific Island women listening or our women in general is just know that this test to find out if you're insulin resistant in New Zealand anyway is not often requested by our doctors, and we actually have to go and get it and pay for it ourselves with our local lab testing. So that really blew my mind because how many women are going through this and don't get the tests to actually know what is going on in your body.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, a lot of people, including medical professionals, health professionals, don't always understand insulin resistance and what we call hyperinsulinemia, which is just a fancy way to say high blood insulin levels. And they don't necessarily know what they can do about it. And so quite often they think, well, there's no point testing because what can we do about it? Yet we see phenomenal reversing of insulin resistance when people change their lifestyle. Now, I always say to people, it's not a kind of a cure because a cure implies that you do a treatment and then it will never come back. I always say to people, it's the way that you can manage it easily with lifestyle, but you have to keep doing the lifestyle.
Yes, that's the challenging part.
That it is, but that's the thing that's what people learn, how to maintain this lifestyle. Not just for a week or 4 weeks or a 12-week challenge, but, long term. And the thing we always say, which you will have heard us say now many times, is it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be consistent. So I love that. So for you then, you've been, what are we up to, about 8, not 10, I don't know when you started, 12 weeks ago maybe now?
Yeah, it would be around 10 weeks. That I've totally changed my eating after the going back to the conference, after having the light bulb moment. And then one of my good friends who was also at the conference, she sent me the screenshots of the lists, the green food lists, the orange and the red. And I read them. And because I'd already had this aha moment, I signed up to your program because I was like, yes, I'm going to do this. And then I just drastically, I remember clearly it was on a Friday. I just literally took those lists and I said, okay, this is it. I'm going to start eating off the green list. I'm going to start cutting the red list. I started and I didn't listen to all the videos yet. So then, within like 3 days, I started having, going through the sugar withdrawals, having the headaches and that sugar, was it the flu kind of symptoms, or, not feeling well, as I, drastically just like that, cut out the sugar and the carbs. But I do want to say that the biggest insight as well was understanding that the cutting the sugar wasn't enough, understanding how you and Dr. Mary explain around how carbs also converts to glucose, that type of, really crucial information. So then you understand the why. I think for a lot of people, when they cut stuff out, they don't understand why they're doing it or what they're trying to achieve besides weight loss, And so it really motivated me to understand why, for my body, why I need to cut these things out. And also really focusing on like not just the goal of weight loss, but the goal of good health, and thinking ahead to 10 years, 20 years, thinking, the stage of life I'm in now. I have young adults, my children are young adults. I'm going to be like, hopefully God blesses me to be a grandparent one day. And I thought of my grandmother, actually. She's 94 and she's a great grandmother. I thought that's my goal. I want to be like grandma. I want to be surrounded by my grandchildren, my great grandchildren. And that's what motivated me. And to be honest, after reflecting, because my grandma talks a lot to us openly about health and what she eats, and she always says to me, I don't really like sugary things. I don't like sweet things. And this is like what's motivating me, like going back to the lists, the green, the red, and the orange. That's what's kept me going, because it hasn't been easy to cut out carbs, and I love sugar. If anyone knows me, I love chocolate. Chocolate is my thing. But what got me with the chocolate was one of the videos that you said about how marketing, and I have a degree in marketing, so I understand the psychology of marketing. When you talked about how from a young age, we have been like subconsciously convinced, and like it's deep in our subconscious that, chocolate makes me feel better. Chocolate is, like I deserve chocolate, and all of that stuff. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so true. Like, that's just one example of, some of the videos that you guys have to not just teach us this is what you need to do, but the subconscious stuff and the mindset, that helps you get through those really tough times where you're in the supermarket and you're hungry or you're tired, and like the chocolate, it's right there, right?
Do you know what I love that you've just described there, Jackie? You've described a number of really, really helpful tools that people might be able to utilize themselves. So one is you've really identified your why. Like, why are you doing this? What is the drive for you? And as you said, it's not to fit into a size 10 pair of pants. Weight loss is a nice bonus, but it's not the driver. And for many of us, we were conditioned that, being smaller, thinner was better. And so that was our driver, but it's not enough. It needs to be something deeper. And as you said, you were pretty emotional when you were talking about it, but that image that you've got of you as a grandma with all the children around you and just living this beautiful, happy, healthy life, because medicine, we are very good at keeping people alive now for a long time. But the quality of life isn't always there. And we really focus now on trying to improve our health span, not just our lifespan, so that you can, play and talk and chat with these beautiful grandchildren and, that you're a vibrant part of their lives rather than being, some old grandma in a bed that can't speak. But that's no fun. So I love that. So that's step one, is definitely finding your why. Step two, I love, is that you just took action. Like, it was massive imperfect action, my favorite type, where you went, God, I haven't even got the program yet, but I'm starting. And so you just were so determined and you just started. And I love that. I think that sometimes we overplan, like we spend all this time sort of procrastinating and pontificating and thinking about it, but you just cracked on and, got started. And then the third thing is recognizing that, you're a doer. However, like all doers, we have also been, we've got some subconscious programming around food and the relationship of food and what food actually means, other than just, something to satisfy hunger. And we have to unravel that a bit and rewrite those stories around what food means for us. So I think you're doing that. Like, it's fantastic.
Yes, and I mean, it hasn't been easy when you're around like family things or even just generally dinner. You've got to make your portions like enough to satisfy you. And I've just realized how much of how we fill ourselves with carbs to satisfy our hunger. So when you cut it out, you've really got to think about more what you're eating, and especially the protein portion, so that you feel satisfied.
Yeah, I think it is tricky. But again, I think this is where you can think about mindset management around this. So a couple of things happen. Over time, particularly once your woodshed opens, your hunger decreases and the amount of food that you actually need is less, because you've got access to your own stored fat. So you can just burn that. And I have this lovely vision that I will do sometimes using the woodshed analogy, which is, sometimes you go, oh, I'm a bit hungry. And then you go, I'll just do this X, Y, and Z thing. And then I'll go and get something to eat. And by the time you've done what you were going to do, you're sort of not hungry anymore. And so in my mind, I've got this beautiful vision of my body has just gone, oh, we need some fuel. Why don't we just get a log and put it on the fire? And we'll burn that. And suddenly you're not hungry again. So hunger does settle. There are some extra tricks that we can do, which is a little bit harder when we're out, perhaps, but certainly at home, which is the small bowl concept, which is this tricky thing. So as humans, we've also been conditioned to eat everything on your plate. It's rude not to eat everything on your plate. It's wasteful not to eat everything. You shouldn't throw everything out. There's people starving around the world, yada, yada. So we will usually eat everything on the plate, whether we're hungry or not. And often when we're not even hungry anymore, but we still put it in. So one of my tips is to say to people, well, get a small bowl. And the deal is, if you're still hungry when you've finished, well, then you can go and get another small bowl. Half the time you won't want to do that because you're actually not hungry enough. You can't be bothered to get up off the table and go and get it. The other thing, again, if you're out, you can go and get a second serving if you've got time, and just recognize that the satisfaction comes. So one of our three Ps, persistence, patience, and perseverance. Being patient, being persistent, and just persevering. And you find it all works out beautifully.
Yes. I've definitely found what you're saying, like just waiting, giving it a moment, when you have had a small portion, like you feel so hungry, but it's amazing. I've cut so much down on my portions. I'm not starving all the time. When I first started on the program, I know you also promote the benefits of fasting. I actually find that now I am totally okay to not even intentionally fasting. I'm totally okay to have my first meal at 12 o'clock. So my morning coffee is more than enough. And, I'll have my first meal, like a nice breakfast of, eggs, like a nice hot breakfast. And it's like kind of like a brunch kind of breakfast. And then, after that, I can keep going until I don't need the snacks anymore. And if anything, maybe like just a few nuts. But other than that, like I don't need like the hardcore snacks, like you have in some diets 6 times a day. And then for dinner, like if I've had a good protein filled lunch, I find that dinner, I can just really eat something quite small and be satisfied. And, just a small little bit of meat and some salad or veggies, but definitely like not like a big plate of food. And it's just amazing how after like, I think that first week, that's the hard week, but quite quickly your body adjusts, say, like within the second or third week. It's just amazing. And it's amazing how far you can push without eating. Because with traveling, one of the challenges of traveling, right, is you're so busy, you're out of your own kitchen and you're on the go a lot. And it's amazing how far I can push myself now to not eat. Like I can easily not eat and just like snack on nuts until 4 p.m., even 5 sometimes. And then just look forward. And in those times, I'm like, okay, now I'm going to have a really nice dinner. And that's when you want to have,
Yeah,
like
absolutely. And I love the concept of being a tiny bit hungry. Like it feels really good to eat when you're properly hungry. We quite often, because lots of us snack all day, you never really get properly hungry again, and you just sort of eat dinner and it's like whereas if you're a little bit hungry, like again, not so starving that you want to eat your arm, but a little bit hungry, food tastes so good when you're a little bit hungry. Oh, I love this. So, Jackie, I am so happy that you've had your epiphany, that the penny sort of dropped, that you can see the future, future Jackie in 20, 40 years, surrounded by grandchildren, great-grandchildren. You're going to be the matriarch of your family, and a beautiful example to them of health and happiness. What would you say to other people that are thinking if, they might need to make some changes? What would you say to them?
I think the first thing is to learn first, is to get the knowledge. When you actually understand what's going on in your body, and the thing is, as well, is there's a lot of stuff out there on social media that's targeting, us when it comes to losing weight, and it can feel so tempting to try this, try that. But what I love, like about learning from you and Dr. Mary, is that you guys are medical doctors. Like I can trust you guys, and you've given me information that really makes sense. And once I have that information, now I can do something with it. So I think the first step is to find out what's actually going on in your body. And like you've mentioned, two women side by side at a gym might be going through different things. So for me, going back to the conference, when you spoke about the symptoms of insulin resistance, straight away I recognized them. I remember correctly, you mentioned getting skin tags on your neck, the famous muffin tummy, and there was a couple of other things you mentioned.
Yeah, there was some pigmentation. People can get extra pigmentation under their arms or around their neck or in their groin. And then particularly for women, if you've had gestational diabetes, that is a symptom of insulin resistance, and it's highly likely to present later on as type 2 diabetes unless people take action. And then the other one for women is any history of polycystic ovarian syndrome. That's a disease of insulin resistance. So they're the sort of female things: skin tags, irregular periods, polycystic ovarian syndrome, gestational diabetes, and then storing your weight around the middle. So I remember, people used to always talk about hating, fat on their thighs and all of that. But honestly, the pear is a very protective place to store your body fat, whereas the apple, so storing it all around your middle, is not at all protective and quite a harmful place for your body to store its fat.
Absolutely. And also I wanted to say for women that are 40 plus and going through this is don't just settle and think, especially when you talked about the chronic diseases that come from, the body fat around the middle, because, I was never satisfied. I thought, no, I need to somehow figure this out before you even talked about the health issues that come from it. So also not settling, like I find with women in our island community, because we are known to be bigger, is that sometimes you can get comfortable and just say, oh, I'm getting older, like I'm just going to accept, like I've just put on weight and I'm just going to accept it. Like that's another thing for me is like, don't accept it. Like you can take control of your health and think about, like I said before, like think about the longevity of, you want to survive for like 20, 30, 40 more years. You don't have to like kind of settle for, oh, this is just what happens to us as Pacific Island women. At a certain age, we just put on weight and then it just is what it is. And, like it's not a vanity thing, it's actually about your health. And so, not settling for whatever the status quo is, and then finding out, doing the tests or whatever you need to do, talking to your doctor, and also pushing your doctors as well. Like we have a high trust of doctors as Pacific Island people. And sometimes whatever your local GP says, you just like go, okay, well, my doctor says it. They must know everything. And it's funny because I mentioned to you, Dr. Lucy, my daughter is actually studying at med school at the moment. And, we've had a lot of conversations and she's like, you know what, mommy, like what I'm learning is that doctors don't know everything. We learn as much as we can, but that's what she's been learning in med school is that, like you learn as much as you can as a doctor. And particularly for, GPs, they don't know everything, but they know enough to be able to treat you in that moment. So also challenging your doctors as well, or getting second opinions, like not just saying, oh, well, my doctor said I don't need an insulin resistance test, for example, or what is that? Why? I don't think you need that as a woman. Like I don't see any risks of diabetes in your medical history, and then just shutting you down. Like, it's your health, it's your body. I mean, think about it. Doctors only have 15 minutes usually allocated. They got to get to the next patient. So you also have to take responsibility and advocate for yourself that no, like I want to do more. I want to do more tests and, find amazing programs outside of your normal GPs like Dr. Lucy and Dr. Mary, where you can get that extra support from specialists. Like I love that you and Dr. Mary specialize in this area. You specialize in metabolic health, and you specialize in health for women. So finding like specialists or doctors that actually specialize in women's health as well, to me is important, because even just because a doctor is a woman as well doesn't mean she's a specialist in women's health. This is,
Yeah, absolutely. And do you know what I think is, you're right. I mean, general practice, we have incredible breadth of knowledge. Most of us know lots of things about most things, or a little bit about most things. But I will be the first person to tell you that I don't know very much about, say, back pain, for example, or I'm not super skilled in skin rashes, unless they pertain to metabolic health, in which case I can then identify them. But I took on extra training, as did Dr. Mary, on metabolic health, on nutrition, on lifestyle in particular, and the incredible benefits that lifestyle can take. But then it's about being able to impart that knowledge, so being able to then motivate and help somebody move, particularly if they're stuck. So I don't mean physically move, I mean sort of move into that next level of being motivated and committed to their health changes, so that, as you said, people don't just settle and think, oh, this is my lot in life. Because if you do that, the path to chronic disease is not pleasant.
Yes. And then I've seen some of my, like I said, older women in my family, when they get there, then again, it's just like, oh, well, I have diabetes, or, oh, well, I have heart disease, or I have to remove my pancreas. There's all these things that I'm seeing women in like their 70s, for example, like, and then it's just, again, like a settling, like, oh, well, this is just what I have. I just have to have this operation. I just have to take 10 pills a day because that's just how it is. But I'm realizing through what I'm learning from you and Dr. Mary is you can take control and you can start working on it now, so that come 60s, 70s, you've prepared your body for that time so that you're hopefully going to have to go through those things. Yeah, but I think the final advice is like what you said before, is like having a long-term goal beyond just losing the weight. Like I shared, my presentation at Female Fusion was about the significant women in my life, my, older grandmothers and aunties and influential women. So it's like, I feel like for Pacific women that are listening, that will inspire you. It's like, don't just focus on yourself. Think about, the older women that inspire you or, you love and adore in your life, and think about, wouldn't you want them to have the best health? Just like your children and future grandchildren would want you to be because if you're in the best health, you can then be like the best, mother, grandmother, great grandmother. I mean, going back to the Moana movie, that scene with the grandmother that comes back and inspires Moana to keep going. That's what our matriarchs of our families do, right? But isn't it so much better to be able to inspire in real life and not from the grave?
I love that. Jackie, this has been wonderful. I think that you are amazing. You're an amazing role model, both, as a working woman, a mother, and now, health guru who's going to inspire. I often think we can lead by actions, which is exactly what you're doing. So thank you so much for sharing your story on our podcast. I really appreciate it.
No worries, Dr. Lucy. Thank you so much. I really appreciate what you do. Keep doing what you do because it blesses women like myself and so many others. So thank you for what you and Dr. Mary have committed to in your business, your life purpose. So thank you.
Absolutely. Oh, you are welcome. All right, gorgeous listeners, that's enough from us this week. I will be back next week with another episode of the Real Health and Weight Loss Podcast. I'll talk to you then. Bye for now. The information shared on the Real Health and Weight Loss Podcast, including show notes and links, provides general information only. It is not a substitute, nor is it intended to provide individualized medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor can it be construed as such. Please consult your doctor for any medical concerns.